12th running of the Cincinnati Heart Association Mini Marathon. Now, traditionally, the organizers try to bring in a big name associated with running. Well, how's about this one? Jim Ryun. That's right, the Jim Ryun, three-time Olympian, will be the featured speaker at tomorrow's race clinic at the Westin Hotel. He joins us live, even as we look at some remarkable footage of a record-setting race by Jim Ryun. 1967, this was, the tender age of 20 in Bakersfield, California, setting a new world record, 3:51 and 1 in the mile. Pretty remarkable. What runs through your mind when you look back and think of this?
Well, one thing that goes through my mind always as I see this is how incredibly easy that race was. Often when you finish, it's difficult to relate to things, but I remember my name that night, and I could tell you what day it was, and it was a great experience.
As you think back now, does this kind of surprise you that you were able to accomplish this?
In some respects, it does. We were talking earlier about some of the problems I've had with asthma. My allergist points to this race as a prime example. Bakersfield, California, June of 1967, everything's dead. And so that was one of the reasons that I think I ran well.
Thinking back, would you want to do it all over again? If someone said, okay, you can be 17 again, but you have to do everything like this, all the training, all the dedication all over again.
If I didn't know what I was getting into, I'd probably give the same response, yes, I would like to. Usually when you look back, you see all the pressures and the sort of things that go on, and you have a tendency to say, I'd like to do it, but eliminate this. For the most part, it was a very rich experience, but I wouldn't mind eliminating some of the pressures.
Now, you talk about allergies and exercise-induced asthma, which afflicted you throughout your career, and now you are working somehow to alleviate that for other athletes.
I work for Allen & Hanbury's, which is a division of Glaxo Pharmaceutical, traveling throughout the country, talking about the subject of exercise-induced asthma, which means that with exercise, you might have a bronchial spasm. I've had that, and about 12 to 15% of the general public has it. But it's not difficult to test for, and it's not difficult to treat. A product called Ventolin is an inhaler that gives not only immediate relief, but has been approved by the International Olympic Committee that if you make mention of it on your medical resume, you'll not be banned from competition.
Very good. About 40 seconds left here. For people who can't make the clinic tomorrow, what kind of tips would you pass on to them in advance of Sunday's race?
That's going to be hard because, as we were just saying, the weather's changing, but probably one of the important things is to make sure you drink enough fluids and not overdress, even if the temperature's in the 40s to 50s. Most people like to put too much clothing on. Once you get real hot and sweaty, it's difficult to put something on that really adjusts. So dress with layers on and maybe gloves and a hat, but don't dress too heavily.
And take it slowly?
Take it slowly. Enjoy yourself. I mean, you know, 9.3, you can see a lot of country during that time.
I hope you're right. I'll be out there with the rest of them. Jim Ryun, appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Pat?
Thanks, DJ. Straight year for it here in Cincinnati. And it did feature a premier runner, as they usually do each race, in the fact of Jim Ryun, former world record holder in the mile. Now, we got a couple of stories here. First off, we got a story on the Cincinnati Heart Mini Marathon. And we had extensive coverage. Myself and Mark Scott were out there, and I think you're going to enjoy the coverage of that Heart Mini Marathon. And then we have a story on Jim Ryun, who we did have an opportunity to talk to a couple of days before the race, and we'll show you a little bit of Jim Ryun. On March 19th, the 12th annual Cincinnati Heart Mini Marathon was held. Over 6,000 runners and walkers took part in a course that basically followed Columbia Parkway. The runners went 15 kilometers, or 9.3 miles, and the walkers did 6 miles. Saturday, a running clinic was held at the Westin Hotel. It featured speakers such as former world mile record holder Jim Ryun, and several exhibits concerning health and fitness, as well as running products. It also gave pre-registered runners and walkers a chance to pick up their race numbers for Sunday. At 11 o'clock Sunday, almost 2,000 walkers started from 5th and Walnut Street on their trek up and down Columbia Parkway. Shortly after noon, the first walkers finished at Procter & Gamble Plaza. The Heart Association walk includes several former heart attack victims, with some former victims running in the race. At 1 o'clock, the time had come for more than 4,000 runners. At the sound of the cannon, the first of 4 heats of runners took off. The other 3 heats left at 10-minute intervals. The lead pack moved up Columbia Parkway, just outside of downtown. After the first couple of miles, the number of front runners dwindles. After the halfway mark, 3 runners emerge in front: Andrew Shepard, Brent Hyde, and Brad Ingram. Shepard, a Fairfield resident who moved here a year and a half ago, is originally from Derby, England. At around 7 miles, Shepard pulls away, finally finishing the 15K course in 46 minutes and 11 seconds, about a minute off the course record. Shepard did have a pre-race plan.
To try and run an even pace. I didn't, if somebody went out very quick, I wasn't going to go. I was just going to try and run my own pace, try and keep it even, and I did that. It turned out that I actually led the whole race just about from 1 mile onwards. So I was running my own pace and nobody wanted to push faster. So it was nice. It's a little bit better than last year. I think last year the wind was stronger, and when the sun's out and shining, it feels nice. It suits me. Conditions like this are good for me.
Hyde, an Air Force captain at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, was second, about 28 seconds behind Shepard, and 12 seconds ahead of Ingram, who is from Mansfield, Ohio. In the female open division, Cincinnati and Julia Esperdine, who's the defending Hart Mini Marathon champion, was the favorite. But she was challenged early by Judy Bogenschultz of Bloomington, Indiana. The fifth-year Indiana University runner moved ahead of Julie around 2 miles and went on to win in 52 minutes and 6 seconds, 1 minute and 7 seconds ahead of second-place Esperdine. After she finished, it was discovered that Julie had a foot problem that hindered her performance.
About 5 1/2, it snapped. And I sort of started limping then. And then when I had to make the turn at Torrance, we hate Torrance anyway. And when I had to turn that way, I really thought I should have dropped that.
What do you mean snapped? What's the problem with that?
Just the outside felt like it cracked, and I can't bend it. It wouldn't flex. Yes.
Even though it's her first win, Bogenschultz is no stranger to the Columbia Parkway course.
This is a little bit longer, but this is actually my 4th year running this, and my first year to race it. But the last 3 miles were definitely
But you were fully well at the course and where the hills came
right,
in.
especially that little one. You go up a little turnaround and come back down, and then the big one at the end. That was definitely hard. But I train in Bloomington, Indiana, so it's pretty hilly there too.
You shot out well at the start. Is that what you wanted to do and get some good times?
Well, I knew Julie Esperdine was here, and I wanted to see if I could run with her. And we ran the first 2 miles together. It was kind of awkward because I didn't say anything to her before the race, and so I kind of just went out with her.
The premier runner at the race, as we mentioned earlier, was former world mile record holder Jim Ryun. We had an opportunity to talk to him at the Norwood High School track on the Friday before the race. Jim, Wichita East High School, 17-year-old senior, 1965. You run a 3:58 mile. What was it like that day? The perfect mile for high school? The conditions must have been great.
Well, the conditions actually were somewhat favorable, and the wind wasn't quite blowing as hard as it is today. However, there was some wind, and it was overcast, and there was a possibility of rain, and yet it just came together on that day.
Now, this record has stood for 24 years. What do you attribute to that?
I'm not real sure, to be very honest with you, because we've had some good improvements in the track surfaces. We've made some improvements in the running shoes, and we understand training better than ever. I don't know what to say other than I think that the training perhaps is maybe where we've made a change that hasn't been favorable. When I was doing the work that I was, the type of training we're involved in, we did a lot more speed work, a lot more interval work. And now there is a tendency was a tendency for a time to think you could get by on a long, slow distance running when it was really not possible. So I think that might be one of the contributions that's led to this long gap.
Well, going with that, what changes have you seen in high school track since the 1960s compared to today?
Well, I think one of the things that's an unfortunate sort of thing is the fact that we go from a yard measurement to the metric distance, or should I say, we go from a mile to a 1600, and from a 2 mile to a 3200. And those aren't even Olympic equivalents. And so many people not only get confused, they get lost, and we're really into a situation in our sport of track and field that we need to do everything we can to endear ourselves to the public. And as it is, I think we lost even more of the public as a result of some of those decisions.
Okay, now you appeared in 3 Olympics, 64, 68, and 72, had a silver medal in 68, 1500. Probably, though, unfortunately, I think what most people remember of Jim Ryun in the Olympics is the 72, the fall. Does it still hurt today when you look back on that?
Not really. At the time it did, certainly, because it was a very difficult time in my life. That particular event, though, just prior to that, I'd become a Christian, and that helped me through that event because politically what happened is I was not reinstated, I think because I was an American. It was a situation where there was evidence showing that I was fouled, and the response basically was, although a bit of a paraphrase, why not come back and try in 4 years? And my response at that time was, I didn't want to come back in 4 years and try again. Let's do it tomorrow when the next heat goes. And their response was, not this time.
Okay, now, it's the 1980s. Do you do a lot of road racing? And if so, what distance do you prefer?
I prefer, and I do a lot of road racing, by the way. I do quite a little bit of it at this time of the year. I like distances of an 8K or a 5K, a shorter distance. The race here, of course, is a 15K. And I'll be trying to get through the whole distance.
Okay, now you've had problems over the years with allergies and asthma, and I think a lot of people, myself included, have had this problem too as runners. Any tips that you can give to runners?
Well, one of the things that's been helpful for me, first of all, I work for a company called Olympian Pharmaceutical, division of Glaxo Pharmaceutical, and I travel on their behalf because I suffer from exercise-induced asthma, meaning that with exercise under certain given circumstances, you may have a bronchial spasm. And it's fairly easy to treat once you know the problem. A product called Ventolin, which is a bronchodilator, it's an inhaler that is by prescription, is a very effective product, and it's approved by the International Olympic Committee for athletes who use it to compete in international, national Olympic competitions without any kind of fear of being banned. The purpose of it, of course, is site-specific because it will give you relief in the bronchial area and won't affect the heart. Aside from that, you can watch some of the foods that you eat, certain additives, certain foods, and you can be aware of certain things in your home. For example, if you're allergic, feathers in your pillows can create problems. Eliminates wool if that's a problem for you. Try and eliminate as much house dust as possible. Our home, for example, has as many wood floors as we could possibly put in, because then you can see the dust and you can get to it, thus eliminating some of the dust problems. So things like that are very important.
Let's go back to the 60s. 66 and 67, you were at your peak. You held 3 world records in 3 different events. The mile you broke by 2 seconds in 66. You come back, run a 3:51, break your own record in 67. At that time, do you attribute age and coaching or both to how well you were doing at that time?
Well, I think part of it was that we were at that time in our country when we were running well. Although I was the world record holder, we had a very fine group of American miners at that time. In 1967, when I set the world record, again, we had a very good group of milers. In the following year, 1968, in the Mexico City Olympics, we had 3 Americans in the finals. And that's an achievement that I'm not sure we've duplicated since then, but I think it speaks to the quality of milers that we had.
Okay, you're from Lawrence, Kansas now. What do you think about our hills around here for this race?
I think they're pretty steep.
That's what a lot of people think, I guess, especially when you come from Kansas. Well, good luck in the mini marathon.
Thank you very much.
And I appreciate you coming.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Jim completed the course in a respectable 54 minutes and 43 seconds, finishing 4th in his age group. We asked 11-year veteran race director Bob McVeigh, how did this year's race go, and does he see any changes in the future?
I think we were basically real pleased with this year's race. We had a great weather day for the runners, a little bit chilly for the officials. It's in the high 30s, and that made it a little tough for the officials. But for the runners, it was great. They seemed to like it real well. I don't know that we'll have certainly no major changes. We've pretty well got a format down that seems to work, and unless we run into something from the cards that we get from each of the runners telling us about things that they like or don't like, we'll probably pretty much stay with what we've been doing. It seems to be working.
Indeed, it did work, as another successful